So I picked up this Diamond dual band antenna. It's a Diamond, I think it's NR, yes, NR770HA dual band antenna. Oh, I'd give it about 2.5 feet tall. And I'm gonna run it into the car. How I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna come along the edge here, down this seam. It's gonna run down this seam, down the windshield, down into the chassis of the door here, and into the glove box. It may seem complicated, but after looking inside the door, I realized that as long as I have about 2 inches of coax exposed, I can bypass most of the wire and save a lot of headache. So that's how I'm going to run it, and I'll show you what I do to do that. So step 1 is to get your end and bring it down into here. Here's the door chassis. It's going to run from outside there down inside the door here where the hinge is. And it's going to come in here at the bottom. I'm going to come in, drill a hole underneath this insulation, push this back. Right there, I'm going to remove this panel, slide the coax into that hole I drilled. With the PL259, it's going to come out back here and run up to the glove box. So that's what we're going to do. And then if I have any slack left over, I'm just going to use it to make sort of a mini balun at the base of the antenna. Alright, so let's get started. So to do this, you need to remove this baseboard where your foot goes. I'm going to try and do that one-handed. Hopefully I can. There we go. Okay. And then we have this piece. But before we remove this piece, we need to pull this panel off back here under the glove box passenger compartment. And that uncovers our fuse box. If I was running an HF wire here, I might be a little iffy about it. Unfortunately, in the future, I am going to be running a 40-meter wire right there, but that's okay. As long as the noise isn't bad, I won't have to figure anything else out. Then we just remove this piece, and this is the piece we're going to drill into. That requires 2 hands, so I'm going to take that off, and then we'll drill the hole with the camera on. So to save on taking this whole panel out, what I've done is I've just pulled it out onto the other side of the insulation. This flap usually goes behind this insulation as it does up here. I pulled this part out where I'm going to drill the hole. I'm just going to drill a hole, then when I push it back in, the insulation will want to go back and cover the hole. The coax is going to push the insulation out of the way though. The reason this works good is because if I ever remove the coax, this, I'm calling it insulation, it's really just a foam padding, or weather stripping is what it's technically called. This weather stripping will pull back in place and cover that hole. So, you know, if we ever sold the car to a non-radio operator, they'd really never know that hole was there. Alright, so now it's time to go get a drill bit the size of this RG58 cable. So I've chosen a point lower on the piece of car sheeting, because as I come down the door, what I've tested is, the further I come down, the less pinching my coax gets when the door is shut. Down here, it almost doesn't pinch my coax at all, where up here it begins to crease it a little bit. So I'm coming down here, that way I have less pinch on my coax. Now for the drilling. Now this might make some of you nervous. It makes me nervous too, but when it's done, I've already tested and it will be covered up. Okay, let me clean that out. There we go. Okay, that's a little bit bigger than RG58, but that's because in the future I'm going to run 2 pieces of coax in there. And I just need to clip the very end off, which is easier said than done, because I don't want to screw up the weather stripping. Let me come in at an angle. Almost. Goodness. Alright, I got it. So what I've done is, now that looks like a terrible hole. It's a good hole, but I just need to get the drill in there and maybe a razor blade and clean up the rough edges. There, you can see what I've done. Is I've drilled a little insert, so I'm going to squeeze the coax in there. And the reason that's good is because now I don't have to drill a hole as big as the PL259. I can just drill it as big as the coax and slide it in. So I'm going to test that, figure out how much slack I have to make my little RF choke on the top of the vehicle. So I've got my little choke made on the mounting bracket, since we never use the mounting bracket on this car. Runs across down into the weather stripping on the edge of the door. And it runs down tucked inside this groove here. And you can see where it comes out. And then it's going to run down in that hole. I'm going to grab a hold of my PL259. Okay. Let it down inside. Come in here. It bent backwards into the chassis of the hood. So, hang on, let me grab that. Let's try and do this differently. There we go. Okay. Pull the slack through. Come back up here. We have one little twist in it we've got to feed out. Comes down. Runs nicely back there. Very nice. Now we just got to put it in here, which does require two hands, so I'll do that and then show you how good it came out. Here's the completed job. It runs down inside the door chassis, comes around here, into that hole, and if I pull this out, this weather stripping pops back in and covers that hole up completely. So it definitely went good, and I've run it behind in the fuse box here. I've just got to finish putting this fuse plate in place. Then it's going to come up behind the glove box where we're going to mount our mobile radio inside this little area here. This is a 25-watt mini mobile radio, and I'll show you what we're going to do to mount the radio and get it hooked up right after I finish putting that paneling back on. Alright, now I'm going to show you mounting this up. Most glove boxes have little push pins that when you push the side panel in, you can pop them out so they fall all the way open, and you can access behind, which is how we're going to run our coax. We reach down here and find it. So this is one of the projects I should have used a cameraman on, but that's alright. Nice view of the PL259 you got. I'm going to set you down for a second. There. Coax pulled through. And it looks like I may have to take one more coil out of that RF choke I built. So I have plenty of slack. And the way we're going to mount this is an interesting little concept I came up with. I hope it works. I haven't tested to see if it will yet, but so far everything seems that it will. Okay. I'm going to take the choke out and get everything ready for that next part, and then show you what it is, since most of it is two-handed anyway. So here's my mobile mounting bracket. This goes right here, and the radio screws onto it. I'm just going to put two holes in here, bolt this to it, cut the bolts, and it'll be done. I'll just put it in and test it. I'm going to attempt to hit the Mount Mitchell repeater about 100 miles away. I'm going to try and get a response with 10 watts and then a response with 5 watts. If I can get the repeater to key up with 5 watts, I know everything's working. Alright, so it's done. I'm going to open it up and show you. There's the radio. The glove box is empty. I'll go ahead and put the stuff back in. Yes, we actually do keep gloves in our glove box. Okay, that's what it's really going to look like. So when I pull it out, I'll pull the microphone out, reach down here, plug it into the cigarette socket, plug the microphone in, turn it on, Here's what I see it as, okay. And go to Mount Mitchell repeater. No, that's not it. Where is it? Oh, is that it? No. I just reconfigured this memory. Here it is. Okay, we're on medium power. Testing mobile. That's 5 watts. The repeater's over 100 miles away, so looks like the system worked. 73s and God bless from WB4UHF Mobile QRT.
Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.